We begin with breaking news out of northern Gaza. That's where an Israeli strike has killed 3 sons and 3 grandchildren of Hamas's political leader. Several members of Ismail Haniyeh's family were traveling in the El-Shati refugee camp when their vehicle was hit. And speaking to Al Jazeera, Haniyeh said the killings would only harden Hamas's resolve. He also said the attack would not affect the group's demands in ceasefire negotiations.
They believe that if they kill or assassinate leaders or their next of kin, that we will abandon our people, that we will abandon our resistance. They are mistaken. This noble blood that is spilled, including my own children, will harden our resolve, make us more defiant, more adamant to continue to march on this road, the road of struggle and resistance until we win our freedom and the lawful rights of the Palestinian peoples are restored.
Well, we have 3 correspondents covering the latest developments on this story. In a moment, we'll speak to our White House correspondent Kimberly Halkett for what we're hearing out of the U.S. Rory Challenge is standing by in occupied East Jerusalem with reaction from Israel. But first, we bring in Hani Mahmoud, who's joining us from southern Gaza with the very latest on this developing story. Hani, so what more do we know about this attack?
Yes, well, not only the attacks on the sons and the grandsons of Ismail Haniyeh, that's the political bureau chief of Hamas in Gaza. We're seeing also a surge. Within the past 45 minutes, we received 6 reports of 6 more airstrikes in the central area, mainly in the western part of the central area, including a Nusayrat refugee camp that's blocked to the west of the central area. Wadi Gaza area, that's the area that has been designated as a safe zone in which all displaced families and Palestinians in the southern part of the strip were literally told to take that part of the strip and to further southern part of the strip as a safe zone for them. Also in the northern part in Gaza City, but the fact that we've seen an attack on the sons and the grandsons of a political leader here is largely viewed and believed by so many as a way to dictate the talks or the course of the ceasefire talks in Cairo. It is also as a statement made by one of Hamas political leaders. It looks like more of a revenge killing, because Israeli military did not make progress on the ground. It resorted into a revenge killing by attacking the children of Hamas leaders in the Gaza Strip.
Okay, Hani, thank you so much for that update from Rafah in Gaza. We'll cross over to occupied East Jerusalem, speak to Rory Challenge. So, Rory, any reaction from Israel about this killing?
There is, but not official reaction, certainly nothing from the government or from the military itself. The only thing we do have at the moment is a video that has been released by a member of the Knesset called Almog Cohen. Now, he is a member of Ben Gvir's far-right Otzma Yehudit party. And in this video, he says that he was on the way to visit the family, the grieving family of a soldier, when he received good news, as he put it. And then he finishes his video by saying, Ismail Haniyeh, Eid Mubarak, you are next in line. Now, we should not mistake this for being the official government line, as I've just said, but who knows what Israeli government members are saying to each other behind closed doors at the moment.
Yeah, and Rory, I mean, one will have to kind of wait and see, I suppose, on if and whether this will impact the ongoing ceasefire negotiations.
Well, Hamas has already said that it will not change their demands, but the timing of this is extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, for one thing, this was in the beginning of Eid, which is a time of Muslim celebration and joy, should be. Also, it comes when this ceasefire negotiation, which would see some sort of peace restored to Gaza, perhaps only temporarily. It would also see perhaps exchanges of prisoners and captives, etc. All of that is hanging in the balance at the moment. So, yes, there are more questions than answers right now, but we have to say to ourselves, well, who took this decision? Did they know who they were going after? This kind of strike is usually done on signals intelligence, which means that they monitor phone numbers, cell phone numbers, and they can plot those by the triangulation of a normal sort of cell network. So they know who they're going after and where they are. That's how they do the strikes. But the bigger question is, if they have all that information and they know who they're going after, who makes the call? Is this just a military decision, or does a strike of this significance have to have a high-level political sign-off? Now, whoever took the decision must have known that this would perhaps jeopardize the ceasefire negotiations. And I think there are many people, both within the military and in the government, who wouldn't shed any tears over that.
OK, thank you, Rory. Thanks for that update from occupied East Jerusalem. And now to our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett, joining us from Washington, D.C. So have we heard anything from the White House yet on this, Kimberly? And how does this attack on Haniyeh's family members look, considering Biden's comments that Netanyahu is making a mistake in Gaza, very recent comments?
Well, this is only going to make the already tense relationship between the Israeli Prime Minister and the U.S. President, Joe Biden, which has been fraught with disagreements and differences, become that much more difficult, given the fact that the U.S. President has, in the last 24 hours, sharpened his criticism of the Israeli Prime Minister. This is not going to be welcome news to the U.S. President. The U.S. President, in the last 24 hours, as you point out, called the action of the Israeli Prime Minister and the way he has conducted his war on Gaza a mistake. He has called for an immediate ceasefire, given the fact that there are in excess of 33,000 Palestinians that have been killed. There is near famine and a humanitarian catastrophe that exists in Gaza. He is calling for the fact that there needs to be an increase in the amount of humanitarian aid, and that's what he is looking for, a duration of at least 8 weeks. But he has also said that what he believes is that Netanyahu is doing this for his political survival. And as a result, he says he does not agree with the approach. So we are watching very carefully here at the White House, given the fact that this is a state visit that is being conducted here at the White House today with the Japanese Prime Minister Kishida. There is a joint press conference that is set to begin in about 20 minutes or so, if it's on time, which is unlikely. That usually isn't the case. But this is likely to be one of the top questions from reporters, given the fact that there will be likely a desire to see reaction on the deaths of the grandchildren and sons of the Hamas political leader. So this is certainly going to complicate the relationship between the U.S. president and the Israeli prime minister.
Yeah, and Kimberly, we'll be watching very closely to see whether this affects the negotiations process at all, which, of course, the U.S. has a major role to play in.
Yeah, it's taken the lead with, of course, Egypt, its partner. And this is probably going to complicate that as well, given the fact we were told just on Tuesday by the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, that the latest in that process was that they were awaiting, they being the United States, a response from Hamas. But given now the developments of the deaths of the sons and grandchildren, 6 in total, of the Hamas political leader, that response may not now be forthcoming. And that is certainly going to put a wrench in the wheel of the gears of this process, given the fact that it looked like progress in trying to get the release of captives in exchange for Palestinian prisoners and in Israeli jails. And so the hopefulness that there might be some sort of breakthrough in this process may now come to a grinding halt. And that is going to be discouraging for the White House that was really hopeful that they finally had achieved some sort of breakthrough between Hamas and the Israelis.
OK, thank you, Kimberly Halkett. Thanks so much for that reporting from the White House. We can now speak to Noor Aoudeh, who's a political analyst and a columnist. She's joining us from Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Noor Aoudeh, welcome to Al Jazeera. So I was just discussing with Kimberly that Biden was recently saying that Netanyahu is making a mistake in Gaza. But with this killing now in Gaza, the Israeli Prime Minister seems to be doubling down on that with the Hamas political leader's family being killed.
Absolutely. It seems that Netanyahu and his coalition are intent on further escalation. We have to also remember that assassinating or going after the families of prominent Palestinian leaders from all factions is not a novelty. It's not an anomaly. This is consistent with Israeli actions over decades, and we've seen that happen over and over again. But as you've been discussing in the bulletin, the timing of this assassination, the fact that it was a precision attack, that most likely, who was in the car is pretty much known to whoever gave the okay to pull the trigger. One has to wonder if Tel Aviv really wants a positive response in Cairo about a possible ceasefire and an exchange of captives, because, of course, Ismail Haniyeh's reaction is expected. This would not change the resolve of Hamas. It would not change how negotiations are conducted. But even in terms of perception, people are going to see this as Israel poking Hamas in the eye, and they will want to see how Hamas is going to respond.
What do you think the message is that Israel was trying to convey, with this attack?
I think Israel has been very consistent, and the ones who don't really want to hear what the Israeli message is are its closest allies. From the beginning of this genocidal war, the Israeli cabinet members have been very clear. They said and they promised they will decimate Gaza. They will kill everybody. They will want to expel as many Palestinians as possible, and they're going to go all the way, and that includes Rafah. And I believe this escalation, coupled with the fact that just less than 24 hours ago, we heard from Netanyahu himself saying that a date has been picked for the invasion of Rafah. It just means that Israel is, making good on its promise, given the fact that we hear a lot about, Washington being upset and angry and in disagreement, but we don't really see any action towards all of these incorrect Israeli policy decisions, except statements. And meanwhile, weapons continue to flow in, political protection continues, and is unshakable. And countries like Germany is willing to go to the International Court of Justice to defend its complicity in this war rather than, change course and change policy. So we'll have to see how this plays out.
You said a moment ago that the Hamas's response was expected when Haniyeh said that he said this: the killing of my sons will not affect Hamas ceasefire demands. Do you think, though, that this kind of throws a wrench into the works when it comes to this negotiation process that's currently underway?
Well, look, more than 33,000 Palestinians have been killed by Israel since the beginning of this war. Up to 20,000 are buried under the rubble. The children and grandchildren of the leader of Hamas cannot and would not be placed at a higher value than those souls who were lost, including more than 14,000 children. But the optics of it and the political messaging of this assassination is significant. And that's why I don't think that we can count it down or discard it in terms of how Hamas will read these messages. And I think it speaks a lot, because what we've been hearing, even while these negotiations are happening, even while, Washington sent in its big guns to play a heavy role in the negotiations, is Israel and the U.S., for that matter, saying, okay, we'll negotiate a deal. There will be a 6 to 8 week ceasefire. There will be an exchange of captives. But then Israel will go back, right, to the killing, to the destruction, to the displacement, and to finishing off Hamas, which I think everybody, all sane experts agree, is not an achievable goal. So the dynamics and the expectation that something positive can come out of somebody telling you, let's talk now, but then once we're done, once the deal is done, I'm going to come back at you, and I'm coming back to kill you off. Without a change, a break in that dynamic, on top of this assassination, I think it makes it less and less likely that we're going to see a breakthrough in the coming hours.
All right, Noor Ouda, thank you so much for speaking to us from Ramallah.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.